What is up, everyone? I am back. It is continuing the series, the AFC East series, our division. I have someone on. I'm just going to let her introduce herself. Jet community. So go ahead, ma'am. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, so hello, Bills fans. This is some uncharted territory for me, let me tell you. My name is Raven. You can find me on Twitter at Hectic Raven. As you can see on my name, I have my own Jets podcast. We're mostly active during the season. It's called NYJTV. Now, listen, I highly doubt you guys are all going to be interested in it as as Bulls fans.
Never know. You got to keep your enemy close, you know?
Exactly,
you got to keep your enemy close. Especially when it comes to the Jets. It's a lot of talk this offseason.
Yes.
But starting with that, tell me how you became a Jet fan.
So I'm a third generation Jets fan. My grandparents, especially my grandma, actually, honestly, might even be more my grandpa. More my grandma more than my grandpa. May he rest in peace. But they were Jets fans. They were literally at that 1968 AFL game against the Raiders, and then obviously my dad was yes, Broadway Joe. And,
wow.
So naturally, my dad was a Jets fan. He's told me all these memories about, like, being all the way up in Shea Stadium and, like, it was, like, the 60s and the 70s back then.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no rules. So people would, like, bring, like, a keg all the way up into the stands. And he's like, yeah, that's what, when my dad let me have my first beer. So.
Awesome.
There's my dad. And then, listen, when your brother shows no interest in sports, you throw the football with dad.
Okay.
You start watching football with dad. Then you go to football games with dad, and then you love the Jets maybe even a little bit more than dad.
I love it. I'm not mad. I mean, you know what? It's just crazy because we can hate if we want to on our division. We can hate on the Jets, we can hate Miami, we can hate on New England. But the thing that we have in common is football. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of what team we cheer for, we love football. And I know I love football. So you're 3 generations of Jets. That's crazy.
Yes.
And you know what's so crazy about it? I'm not an original Bills Mafia. I'm not a Buffalo Bills fan. I was originally, because my dad loved 2 teams. He liked the Bills and Washington. So I watched Washington, but they weren't on regularly. I still live in Buffalo. So he said, if you're going to watch your team, watch football, you got to watch your team. So I started watching my team, interest, whatever. Again, I know people have heard this. I was never a Jim Kelly fan, but whatever. Probably get shot one day about saying this, but was not a fan of Jim Kelly.
So who was the first Bills quarterback you've ever seen? I don't mean to age you, sorry.
Right. See, that's crazy because I wasn't really into it. I would have to say, I didn't really watch it then. But I'll say this, Joe Theismann.
Okay. That's a good one.
Yeah, so that's where I'm.
My first Jets quarterback was Chad Pennington.
Chad Pennington.
Yeah, I couldn't have been older. I think my first Jets game, this is at the old Giants Stadium. I couldn't have been older than, like, 10. Even that feels old. Could be like as young as like 8 even.
I can't remember how old I was when I watched Joe Theismann. Maybe 7.
Yeah, well there you go.
8, yeah. And I loved him ever since. I mean, when he got hurt, I was devastated. I seen it, and this was a time when it kept replaying it and replaying it and replaying it. And I'm like, why are they continue to replay this man who got injured and his foot it was bad. It was bad. So, yeah. But let's get into Jet talk. let's get into what's going on with your team this year. I know there's a lot of expectations going on this year, but let's before we move forward, let's go back just a tad. Um, 4 snaps. 4 snaps. Give me your thoughts.
All right, so I'm going to set the stage for you. I was at the game.
Oh, were you at the game?
I was at the game. Those tickets, that was my 27th birthday present. My dad got us tickets to the home opener. And also,
okay, let me ask you something. Was it electric? Was it like everything you've seen on TV?
It was beyond. So that same summer, I went to the Eras tour and Beyonce's tour.
Oh, okay, you're doing it.
So let me tell you, that 9/11 home opener was even more lit than all of the crazy people screaming for freaking Taylor Swift and Beyonce. Me being one of them at Beyonce. Okay, it was just the most. I never felt that sort of energy at a Jets game, and the home opener is always super high energy. A lot of times we're usually playing one of our division opponents.
I hate it.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, listen, I
think it's too early in the season to be playing your division rival. It's just too early. These games are important.
Yeah.
So I like to move them back just a tad. Sorry to cut you off.
Don't necessarily have an opinion either way, but I will agree with you. I've honestly never thought about it that deep. But anyways, so, like I said, this energy is more electric than the freaking Taylor Swift Eras tour and Beyonce's Renaissance tour combined, know. And on top of that, it's the anniversary of 9/11. So New York pride is at an all-time high, if you can even imagine that. And we're Jets fans. Aaron Rodgers was basically our messiah coming into this. And I'm not even exaggerating. I will fully say that is kind of.
Well, the way he came out there with the flag, you was just, it was just it's okay.
Yeah. And, and everybody, it was good vibes. Everybody had a good buzz, myself included, it was the promise of a new day.
Right.
And then 4 freaking plays in, it becomes an 80,000 person funeral.
Wow.
It would it was so quiet. I mean, people were freaking out. Me, my drunk ass, trying to be delusional, was guys, it's not that bad. It looks like he just sprained his ankle. It's gonna be okay, guys. No big deal. Meanwhile, I'm doom scrolling my phone the entire time.
Right.
And it was terrible. Literally every single person I knew, all my friends, my cousins, my aunts, my uncles, my crazy Jets fan grandma, even my ex used it to worm his way back into talking to me. They were all asking me, "Are you okay?"
No.
And then I was like, "Bitch, no." No, I am the farthest thing from okay.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I hate injuries. I like to have everybody at their peak. So we have the great competition that, football is about, but football, it comes with the territory. You're going to have some injuries. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, listen, when I look, I went through so many different emotions. I probably went through the stages of grief at least 10 times. And then I went through them 10 more times after, in the week following. There was so much anger because, you take a look back at certain little signs and we can kind of, if we dive more into the season, I can go deeper into this. You look at some of these little signs, these little things that were kind of brushed off over the summer. And then you look at what happened. You're oh, duh, of course. You had this offensive line that didn't practice together all of training camp. So they had no continuity, no chemistry. And then the person who was executing the block, Dwayne Brown, he's basically coming right from rehab to playing on in a Monday night football game. So it's like, how could you possibly think you can depend on
Right.
that offensive line to protect? I mean, at that point, he was 39, that to protect your 40-year-old quarterback,
Yeah.
especially on that slippery ass, disgusting MetLife turf.
Yeah, your turf is bad. I think everybody in the league hates your turf.
No, well, literally, I mean, shit, I do.
Yeah,
I
it's
freaking hate
bad.
our turf.
When we play there, I just pray that
Yeah.
no one gets injured. I mean, everyone in general. Like, I hate injuries. I hate when people go down, especially in the off season, especially when there's training camp, especially when it's preseason. I hate it all because it's important. And when your number one guy goes down, you're like, okay, all right, oh, what are we doing here? Because Zach, what's his name?
Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson, I think we all knew he wasn't the guy. I think we
Yeah,
all
I
knew.
mean, I can, the way I see it with Zach, I think as much as he had his own weaknesses, his footwork, his lack of grasp of the basics, holding on to the ball too long, all of that. First of all, those are all things that were on his draft report. These were it's not like that just like randomly popped down.
Exactly.
The team knew this. This kid was gonna be a project. He always was. And this is very this really speaks to the nature of the Jets in there and why they haven't really been able to develop a quarterback, and this, and it's not even necessarily because of the organization itself. This is New York. Then there's so much more pressure in this market that when you do get that top 5, top 10 draft pick, the expectation is that they'll start. And unfortunately, more often than not, they get started when they're not supposed to. So the way I see the Zach Wilson of it all is, this kid never should have started his first year. Never. He it's not even like he had to sit behind the greatest quarterback in the entire world. I mean, Patrick Mahomes has said multiple times that he is who he is today because he sat behind Alex Smith for that year. And no shade to Alex Smith, but he's no Patrick. Patrick Mahomes.
No.
He just needed to sit behind someone so he could take the time to work on these things, get that grasp of the basics, because it's amazing that he has the ability to do those hero ball plays so young and having that raw talent. But when you can't do that and you have nothing else to go back on, you're not going to be a good quarterback. You're going to get sacked. You're going to make a dumb play, get an interception.
But I also think, I don't know if they used him right either, because I don't know if they wanted him to run. He scrambled, but he never ran.
I completely agree. And what I think that speaks to is specifically with last season is Nathaniel Hackett's inability.
We're going to talk about that.
Oh, okay. You know what? So you know what? I'll end the Nathaniel Hackett talk for now here because let me tell you.
Okay. So moving forward, Rodgers is back. He's back with his original OC. Nathaniel Hackett. Well, there was rumors they were trying to get rid of him this offseason.
Yes. So it wasn't. I've seen different things. I've seen that they were trying to get rid of him outright, but it seems like it was more so that they were going to try to get another offensive voice in the room to help with the play calling. And this is something that happened with Aaron and Nathaniel Hackett when in their Green Bay days, more often than not, Hackett will call a play. And, in the case of Green Bay, it was either LaFleur or Aaron changing the play. But obviously in this case, it's Aaron usually changing the play at the line of scrimmage. So,
Tell me, okay. I know, see, Rodgers and I was a Rodger fan, right? Early on.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if it's just, and I want to say arrogance, because I think he's a fabulous football mind, can read defenses like no other.
Yeah.
But I do get some sense of, I know everything and you don't, type of a.
Yeah, no, I definitely think he has, a little bit of a God complex, but I think I don't think that's unique to him. I think we saw that in Tom Brady, basically his entire career, and listen, when you are that guy, when you are one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and I sincerely believe that Aaron Rodgers is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. He's not Tom Brady, but he's absolutely up there. The guy has the greatest touchdown to interception ratio in the history of football. Like the throws that he makes, you wouldn't have Patrick Mahomes wouldn't be able to make the throws that he makes if he didn't see Aaron Rodgers doing it first. And
Josh Allen.
Same thing with Josh Allen. The listen. I'll tell you right now, as much as it hurts my soul to say, I think Josh Allen is so freaking fantastic. I love watching him play. He is so talented, and I think sometimes, especially when I'm around my fellow Jets fans, they unnecessarily shit on him for no reason. But I think Josh Allen is so. No, I'm not even just saying this. I love watching Josh Allen play, except when he's playing against my team.
Well, against your team, though.
Against you guys.
But against your team, he's having a shit show all the time against your team.
I know.
So, I mean,
perhaps let me amend my statement to say when I'm watching him at home.
Right. Stay at home. Because when he goes to your stadium,
my stadium,
it's I'm like, come on, that's an L. That's an L. But you guys got a good backup now. I love Tyrod Taylor. He was with the Buffalo Bills. He's one of those quarterbacks who will not turn the ball over. He also won't throw the ball if down the field, but he will give you the security that you need. I love him. I wanted him for the Buffalo Bills as a backup. But tell me how you feel about Tyrod.
No, I really liked that signing. I think that's somebody who, when you're looking at a backup as close to a quote unquote contemporary of sorts that you can get when you have Aaron Rodgers, I think, he's had a lot of experience. So he definitely has that leadership quality of God forbid, knock on wood, the worst thing you could possibly imagine happens. And I think, I think he's a good quarterback. I really think he is. He's an example of one of those guys, and I think this is very, integral to the league as a whole. This role of the backup quarterback, having a backup quarterback that could probably be the starting quarterback on another team is super important. And I think that's exactly what we have in Tyrod Taylor.
I mean, he came in last year. I mean, he got injured, and that's the thing with Tyrod too. He came in last year with the Giants and won them some games, and then he got injured. So I mean, I'm not going to say he's injury prone, but that is something I guess you got to worry about. But I love Tyrod. He did fabulous things with the Buffalo Bills. Again, I wish he was with the Buffalo Bills again, but I think they ended. I don't want to say a sour note, but they ended where it was just Sean McDermott came in and it was just back and forth of starting, not starting, sitting, and it was just a little sad. But I still watch Tyrod though.
And truthfully, I don't think it's entirely unfair to say that he's injury prone. That was something that certainly crossed my mind when we signed him. That's why, personally, I don't necessarily see a need for him to play too much in the preseason. I'd let him get a few snaps.
So who's your backup from Tyrod?
Jordan Travis. We signed him. We drafted him this year.
Okay.
He was that. Yeah, we drafted him. I believe it was the 5th round. Yes, it was the 5th round. Okay.
Yeah, I would not play Tyrod at all in the preseason. If you could, I wouldn't play him at all.
Yeah.
I know it's probably going to be hard because you do want to see how your guys are going to perform, but if you could, I would not play that guy at all.
I mean, I think this type of thing, maybe you have him do 1 or 2 possessions to to your point, to just kind of see what he can do, and then give the rest to Jordan Travis.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. Let me ask you: is this an all-in season for the Jets?
So I think in many ways, yes. I mean, if you look at the financials, all these 1-year deals that we just signed with Tyron Smith or Moses,
Mm-hmm.
I think Hassan Reddick, he's only got a year left on his deal technically. So, you look at it on paper, yes. But I personally think that's just it's a little too simplistic and a little unrealistic in my opinion.
It's just like it's like Super Bowl or bust. I hate that
Yeah.
too. I hate that as well.
I just think that's too much of a binary way to
Mm-hmm.
look at it, because you're talking about a team that's gone 7-10 the past 2 seasons, coming off a historically terrible offense. I'm talking.
So okay, then let me ask you this then. Not all in as a team, but is it for the coaching staff?
Oh, for the coaching staff, absolutely. For the and I'll get here's my and I thought about this very deeply, because I've been asked this a ton of times. On paper, it looks like the Jets could absolutely be juggernauts, but I still think there's still a little bit of youth to a certain degree with this team, for sure. You don't necessarily have a lot of guys who are experienced in making any sort of run to the playoffs. And again, we're coming off 2 seasons of being 7-10. And then on top of that, you have all these teams that are right in front of them. So if we're looking at this, the Chiefs are the top, the top of the top. No one's on their level. And then you got tier. Yeah, no one's on their level. So you got the tier below. That's where I'm talking if we're specifically narrowing in on the AFC, that's where you got your Ravens. I'll put the Texans in there. Joe Burrow's coming back to the Bengals. I'll throw the Bills on there. I mean, listen, I'm not counting out the Browns. They looked fantastic.
Oh my God, yeah.
Year.
Mm-hmm.
You got Justin Herbert and the retooled Harbaugh Chargers. I mean, shit, who knows? Maybe Trevor Lawrence has his breakout year with the Jaguars.
Because they're putting pieces around him. So
yeah, the AFC is so congested with talent in a way, and I think there isn't a lot of distance between the teams that I would put on that tier. We'll call it 1A for all intents and purposes, because so I think I think it's all in that they have to make some real if they can't get to the Super Bowl for whatever reason, they got to make real noise in the playoffs, and it has to be the type of thing where it's they're going up against one of these super elite teams, and it's possession for possession until someone makes that little mistake, that teeny tiny mistake that makes it a heartbreaking loss. I think if that's the way it goes, and it's not the Super Bowl, then I think I think Salah, I think JD, I think Hackett are safe. If it's the type of thing where it's a playoff game and we get blown out and look like a freaking middle school football team, their asses are out. So
I didn't ask you this. Well, this is not one of the topics, but how do you feel about Salah? What's your thoughts on him?
I personally really like him, and I get shit for this all the time. I personally like him because the way I see it, as important as results are, I do think having a coach that a team buys into is equally as important. And even with all this adversity, and this is a huge testament, I think, to who Salah is as a coach, with all this adversity, he's still managed to keep the locker room together. And I think what you're seeing is incremental growth, because you went from, I believe 4 to 12 his first season. Then you went 7-10. Then last year, he still managed to get the team to 7-10 with an arguably worse offense than the season before. That's not nothing. So I think what, you see with him, incremental growth, and I think he's certainly growing into the job, but given the nature of the New York market, like you want to see it like right away.
Tough market. Tough market.
It's a tough market, and you know, I'm interested to see what happens this year, because his style of coaching, he's always been more of like that CEO, in that he like really delegates to the people he puts in place as experts in their respective position groups. But from the reporting we've seen, it seems like he's going to be a lot more involved on offense, which I think will provide like an interesting perspective, because we know how good he is with defense. You know, I think he'll be able to call out like little things in some of these plays that, you know, are overlooked but are like very simplistic. You know, the type of thing where he's like, okay, like, you know, yeah, you have this play, but if I'm looking at you from the other side of the ball, like, like this is what I see. And I think that will certainly create a more dynamic and a more complicated, for lack of a better word, offense, which I think was another problem with Nathaniel Hackett's offense, in that it was like really just like uncreative and like predictable.
And you had to be, because of the quarterback that you had back there.
Of course. I mean, you know, it's a ton of things. It's the quarterback. It's like the Swiss cheese, like turnstile offensive line. I think we had something like somewhere between like 13 to 15 different offensive linemen playing throughout the season. Or, you know, I've tried to block out this last season so I can.
I get it. I mean, well, let's get off the offense. We were talking about the defense. We were talking about the defense and solid defense.
Let me tell you,
I bet you do love that defense. You signed Reddick, and your defense was already solid last year. CJ Mosley took a pay cut. Talk to me about your defense. I know you guys got, you know, Sauce. What's his name? Quincy Williams.
Yeah, you got Sauce. You got Quincy Williams. You got
his brother.
Williams,
Yeah,
you got
so
CJ Mosley. Jermaine Johnson. You know, I could go on and on. You got that behemoth in Michael Clements. Who, listen, Michael Clements, if you somehow randomly manage to stumble upon this podcast, just know any of these Jets fans out there that are giving shit are just acting like a bunch of little bitches. I love everything you're about. I love that you're the enforcer.
What are they saying about him?
I mean, there are some people within the fandom that just have a problem with the way he'll conduct himself, like the way he'll kind of like, you know, curse out like the opponent's fans in the stands, and like, you know, and he doesn't necessarily.
Oh, that's right. He was the guy that was like, and you.
Well, yeah, which was like,
and you,
like, I don't have a problem. I really don't have a problem.
I don't care about any of that stuff.
Yeah, like, you know, and that's just within the fan base. That's like a certain. There's a certain demographic of Jets fans that, how do I say this delicately?
I get it.
You know, put it this way. There's a certain pocket of Jets fans that look exactly like my dad, like, you know, but aren't as cool.
I get it.
Accepting as my dad.
I get it.
We'll put it that way. So, you know, they see that sort of action on, you know, a guy like Michael Clements, who they might not necessarily say like measures up, and they're like, well, like, oh, like, you know, like, shut up, like, yeah, please, you know. But anyways, back to the Jets defense. To all my Jets fans on Jets Twitter, if you see this, like, I'm just bullshitting. Like, you know how I feel about all you.
Yeah, it's all good. To be quite honest, your defense kept you in games. They just got worn out. You know what I'm saying?
No, exactly. I mean, you know, you could this defense. I love watching this defense. I mean, like, I'd be sitting on my couch watching the Jets games, and I'd see like freaking like Quincy Williams just like throw something to the ground. I'd be like, yes, like screaming my head off. And then I met my neighbor like a month or two after football season ended, he's like, yeah, I figured out you were a Jets fan by like week 2.
Oh wow. Oh
Because
wow.
I'm screaming about how much I love our
So
defense.
do you think what do you think the red and the pass rush, what do you think he does with his offense? Does he give you guys the piece that you need?
So the piece that we need really is in the safety room. If there's a way that we can upgrade our safety room, I think that's the quote unquote missing piece. There's
Gotcha.
some pockets of Jets fans that have like really harsh opinions about our safety room, which I believe right now is Chuck Clark, Tony Adams. I might be forgetting.
Not a lot of people like Chuck Clark. Isn't he coming off? Is he coming off?
He's coming off an ACL.
Yeah,
he's coming off an ACL. I just always have to question in my head, like, okay, are they getting this heat because they are as, average as or bad as they are, or are they getting this heat because they're being looked at within the lens of the literal best cornerback tandem in the league? I'm talking about Sauce and DJ, like some of the best defensive linemen in like Quincy and like Quinnen, like, that's what I always wondered. So I always try to take that personally with a grain of salt when it comes to them. But I will say though, with Hassan Reddick, once we lost Bryce Huff,
I didn't understand that.
Yeah, I think
I like Bryce Huff. I
did too. Listen, I think when you have somebody who's like a homegrown talent, especially, I think that's.
And I think he wanted to stay. Did he not?
Nothing that was like, I want to stay with the Jazz. And yeah, I'm sure he would have loved to have stayed, but I think he, last season, he certainly became him. And I think if he wanted to be paid what he felt he deserved, and he certainly did deserve it. He's amazing. But
yeah, I mean, you guys rotate your defense like we do too. So I get it. I mean, if he was not on a rotating base, like your numbers will be your numbers, and you can deserve that money. Speaking as a fan, when you're a rotating piece, I don't know if you're going to get that money that you're looking for.
Yeah,
I understood why he left.
Exactly. And I think that's part of like what it came down to, is that I don't think the Jets were necessarily able to give him what he wanted and like and even what he deserved, and like, and listen, like, that's okay. Obviously I would have loved to have kept him, but like, well, I'm not mad at getting Hassan Reddick. I'm not going to complain about that, especially because, and I always find this really astounding, especially when I look back at this last season, is that despite like having this like very adequate, like very middle of the pack pass rush, we were still the number 3 defense in the entire league. And now I think to a degree we've upgraded that. I think what Hassan Reddick brings is, one, he obviously elevates the pass rush. And if you look at his tenure with the Eagles, any major defensive play that the Eagles made, it was because of Hassan Reddick, and that's more indicative to the strength of the Eagles defense. Our defense were, like I said, we're top 3 in the league. So it's not even, it's not even like there's always going to be this like constant pressure. It's just like, do you type of thing. So I certainly think he elevates the pass rush. I think given how long he's been in this league, I certainly think he brings another element of leadership into the locker room for sure. And I think he's a good mentor, Jermaine Johnson, and really, especially for Will McDonald.
Right. I want to say that you guys you build up your O-line, right?
Yes.
This offseason. I mean, you got Aaron Rodgers back. Your defense has always been solid. Yes. I mean, it's kind of a scary situation over there. Expectations is high. You guys signed Mike Williams. So what is his expectations for this season for you? And How has he been this in OT? Has he even practiced?
He hasn't practiced yet. He's coming off an ACL, I believe. I think the way I see it, so obviously our wide receiver one is going to be Garrett. We also
Right.
drafted this kid Malachi Corley, who's
Mm-hmm.
thus far been like really just incredibly impressive. So I imagine he'll be wide receiver 3. Maybe it's the type of thing where maybe he's wide receiver 2, like, and doing that as like a tandem with Mike Williams in the beginning as Mike Williams comes um, back into the game. I
Right.
haven't really heard much about when exactly he'll be practicing and all that,
Mm-hmm.
but especially with minicamp coming up. But
Right.
I think the belief is that he'll um, is hopefully he has some time when it comes down to like real training camp. But I also think it's this, with Mike Williams, it's the type of situation where it's like, he's been that wide receiver too for so long that like, it's not, I don't think you necessarily have to like worry about him in particular getting
Right.
with the
Right.
program. Obviously there's going
Right.
to
It's
be,
more of rhythm with your quarterback and
yeah.
your wide receiver. So yeah, I
Yeah,
totally
100%,
understand. Yeah.
100%. So like, yeah, it would be, when he does return and, if it's like a little bumpy in the first week or two, look, that's to be expected. He's
Mm-hmm.
like one way or another, he's not going to get this, like all the reps that you would ideally want him to have with Aaron as your wide receiver too. But,
Right.
this is a guy who's very experienced and very
Mm-hmm.
apt within that wide receiver 2 role. So, you would hope that he can like whatever kinks, quote unquote, that need to be worked out on his end. It's just a matter of like, hey, I haven't been on a football field in like 1,000 years. Like I just need a minute to adjust. But, I think we still have like a really I think we have a really great wide receiver 3 who can, probably pick up the slack. I think you also, I think we're also going to see Brees go out, go
Mm-hmm.
go wide more because Hackett discovered like freaking like 10 weeks into the a season last year that yes, Brees Hall can catch a ball. So I certainly think you'll see him as a secondary target or a second read or a decoy. You also got Tyler Conklin. He's like our tight end 1 as of now. I've always thought he's extremely underrated within this team. And I think like, being with Aaron, like he'll get those receptions and really be able to shine in that role. So, I think like, certainly Mike Williams has like he has a little room to like, have to go through some of those
Right.
like growing pains with Aaron. It's not
Right.
like without him, like the Jets like literally don't have anything.
Right. So you guys this year are having joint practice with the Commanders and I think it's the Carolina Panthers, right?
Yeah, we're gonna have practice with them, and then I think we're gonna be practicing with the Giants again. I think.
Oh, are you? Okay. Okay.
I think so, but I could be wrong. I'd have to think on that. I think we
Okay.
usually always have a practice with the Giants, like regard. Well, because we always do. We have a practice with the Giants. You don't quote me on that. I just know
Okay.
that I think we have a preseason game against them because I think we always do.
Yeah, I think it was the Snoopy Bowl or something like that. You guys call it?
I've never heard that. Maybe we do. Maybe I'm missing.
Yeah, I think it's called. I only heard it because I was in the jet space, and I know it's called something. Maybe maybe I might be wrong. I could be wrong.
Listen. I could be wrong too, and if I'm wrong, I feel I'm a little ashamed of myself.
I like to keep my enemies close. So so it's OTAs. Is there anything that you're seeing or hearing that the Jets media is telling you so far? Is any concerns right now? I know it's still early.
I mean, certainly, like, Alan Lazard is still a concern. It's not like that's anything new. We caught on to his bullshit during the season, and he's, the hope would be that maybe he'd like, take a little step up because he'd be back with Aaron, but it doesn't seem like that's happening. It still seems like he's still having a lot of problems with drops. So that's certainly concerning. And, I think, the big thing right now is that Hassan Reddick hasn't attended any of OTAs, and it's supposedly because he wants a new contract. I personally think that's like a whole lot.
Really?
Yeah, I personally think that's like a whole lot of nothing because, like,
Gotcha.
this is a very experienced player too. I don't think he necessarily needs to be a voluntary
Yeah.
workouts, and to like, like one way or another, whether he's playing to be extended, because that's what I think it's come down to. Based on reporting, it seems that it's like, he wants an extension, so he's holding out to like a certain degree. I mean, one way or another, like, he's still trying, playing for an extension or a new contract or whatever, whether it's with us or somebody else. So, I don't foresee it being a big problem. I just think, like, I don't know. I just personally think it's the Hassan Reddick not being at the OTAs thing is being blown way out of proportion.
I know about the OTAs and stars not showing up. So I totally understand that. I'm glad we don't have to deal with that right now. No more. I am so happy the drama kind of is over. People still like to drag that stuff in. And I'm a fan. If you're not on my team, I don't stress about you. I don't care what you're doing. You're done. We are no longer rooting for you. So I don't care what you're doing over there.
Well, I got a question for you because I think I know exactly who you're referring to. How are you feeling about your receivers without Stephon Diggs? I'm not going to even mention Gabe Davis. I had that guy on my fantasy team. It was the biggest mistake of my life last year.
When it happened, I'm like, okay, wait, time out. Because I was the fan, like, we're not going to get rid of him. We're not going to get rid of him. That's a big dead cap on this team. And they're very, when it comes to the salary, they're very, very good when it comes to the salary. In order for Brandon Beane to say, we're done here, something had to have happened.
Yeah.
So if he's good with it, I mean, of course you have to be good with it. But I mean, I don't know. I am concerned. I also believe we are capable of having a tight end or Shakir or Dawson Knox or our run game to help out of this offense. So we may be more of incorporate the run game more, but I'm good with my wide receivers.
Yeah.
I don't know if Coleman will come in and step in. I don't think that's going to be his role this year. Also, I like the fact that we got Curtis Samuel. So everybody's forgetting about this guy. So
I agree. I agree. I was in a Jets Twitter space a few days ago when we were talking about, like, who's going to get first, who's going to get second. And truthfully, I think with both of our teams, it could be either or. And it's going to be the type of thing where, like, the separation is only going to be like a game or two. Like, if you guys get first, we're going to be second, but we're only going to be like a game or two behind you. And like vice.
It's going to be a tight.
It's going to be tight.
It's going to be definitely tight. So you are segueing, and I love it. I know it's early in the season, but how do you see this Jets season finishing?
So I see the floor as 10-7 because that's just adding on 3 wins. That's the way you do that. You sweep the Patriots. You could. I think we certainly can, given the time, like the time in which the Dolphins are positioned on our schedule. Maybe you sweep the Patriots and the Dolphins. You catch, you beat everyone on paper that you're supposed to beat, and then, like, you maybe grab a game or two, and then I think the ceiling is 12 and 5. I always forget now that the NFL is 17.
Yeah, 17 games.
I was like, it's like I know it's been like this for years, but I still freaking forget every single time.
Yeah.
Like, the Jets, they the beginning of our schedule is definitely tough in that it's going to require a lot of endurance. But I think, like, the saving grace that it's against all these very inexperienced quarterbacks, at the end of the day, like, listen, I know we're playing the Texans. Like,
That's your first game?
No, our first game is the Niners, which I'm really happy that we're getting that one over with. Truthfully, I'm really happy that I'm honestly happy that one is the first game that we're playing of the season. I don't necessarily expect us to win because it's an away game for us.
Okay.
So it'll be their home opener. So in San Francisco. I still think I don't think it's entirely impossible.
And that's real grass.
Beat them, but I don't it's not going to be easy. I think when you have Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback, you're always going to be within a game, and for that reason, like, I'm happy that that's the one, that's the first one, and we're just going to we're done with it. But but anyways, back to what I was saying. The Jets always managed to beat one team that they were not supposed to beat last year with the Eagles, and we got damn near close to it being
that was crazy too. It's crazy game.
That was crazy. So 12-5, that's taking probably the Niners game, and then okay, let's throw in who could catch us. Let's throw in the Rams and Matt Stafford. I mean, Matt Stafford is no Aaron Rodgers, but he's still Matt Stafford.
Yeah.
He's still got Puka Nacua, et cetera, et cetera. So but I still think that's a game win. We have a pretty easy schedule. It's just the way some of the games are positioned is
we got
difficult.
We have a top heavy schedule.
Yeah,
coming out. Yeah, so we definitely have to be. They got to get on the road fast. They got to be in sync kind of quick, because our next game after the Arizona game is Miami, and it's just okay, great, and it's in Miami. So, yeah. They didn't do us any favors, which is fine.
Who's the opponent that you're least excited to play this season?
I'm going to be quite honest with you. It's got to be the Jags. I can't stand the Jags. Every time we play the Jags, it's either something happens, we get injured. Last year we went to, I think it's London. 3 guys went down. I think 3 guys or 2 guys went down. And they always give us a hell of a fight. So I can't stand them. Can't stand them. And it's Allen on Allen. So I can't stand it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But the last question I have for you, what is a successful season for the Jets? Fill in the blank.
I think at the very least, it's what I described before, where you're making a really good, really solid playoff run, but you lose in a heartbreaking fashion because you made that one little mistake. I think that's where it starts and where it ends is a freaking Lombardi.
Gotcha.
I'm very about tempering my expectations for this team, especially this season, because to make such a jump from what we were last year to being in the Super Bowl, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think I think we can do it. I certainly think we can, but like I said before, there are so many teams that are in the same exact place in line as us behind those freaking Chiefs. So
this season, everybody is back.
No, exactly.
So
I think as the league, we're all forgetting about this cool dude named Joe Burrow. I think we're forgetting about him.
Yeah, and he's back. So it's going to be an interesting season. I can't wait for it to start. I mean, I know the guys got to have their time and get their bodies right or whatever the case may be. And, I love the layoff because we can also take a decompression too when it comes to football. But I can't wait for it to ramp right up. I love football.
I am so excited because I'm also a basketball fan. So I'm like,
Oh, okay.
That's like winding down, and I'm
Yeah.
like, listen, I'm so excited to watch the WNBA this season. I've been watching WNBA, truthfully for like a year or two. I started watching when Brittany Griner returned, and then I just kind of kept watching.
Very cool.
So, obviously I'm like so excited to watch that, but like no shade to the women of the WNBA at all, but there's nothing like football.
Yeah, no, there's nothing like it.
There's
It's nothing like it.
football.
That's my first passion, so there's nothing like that.
Me
on
too.
Sundays. I mean, any day, but Sundays is just those days where you just, that's all it is. It's just football.
Yeah. Like sitting on your couch, do whatever you want to do, maybe, cracking up like a beer, or like a seltzer or something, and freaking like watching football. There's nothing like it. It's the best in the world. My friends know, like, don't even try to talk to me, don't even try to make plans with me unless the freaking sky is falling down on a Sunday, because I am watching football.
I love it. I love it. Well, you know what? Thank you for joining the show. I really appreciate you. I have to have you on again in this season so we could talk some more Buffalo Bills and Jets and see what our team is doing and what is our pulse in the season. But tell everybody again where they can find you. Tell them about your podcast that you have.
Yeah, so you guys can find me at Hectic Raven, as you can see in my byline. That's my Twitter handle. That's my Instagram handle. I have my Jets podcast called NYJTV. We're mostly active during the season, doing our like kind of game by game breakdowns and predictions. I mean, I'd love to have you on. It's me and my co-host Vinny. I'm sure he'd love to have you on to talk with us when we talk Bills versus Jets.
Sure, I'm down. I am down.
And I say this with like the utmost like love, adoration, and respect in the world. I can't wait to kick your ass this season.
Listen,
because it's gonna
same here.
Once. It always happens at least once.
It does. The last 2 seasons, it's happened at least once. So I mean, and vice versa, because I can't wait either. I mean, the smack talking is going to be crazy. The week of, we always talk smack. You go in those spaces, you just hear people just talking the back and forth. I love it. I don't talk smack per se. I just like to listen to it. But again, thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
No problem. This is I'm your host T. This is Not Your Average Podcast in the 716. You know what we do. We drop Thursdays live 2:00. This will drop on Thursdays as a pre-live, pre-recorded show. So if you haven't caught it, you know what? Go back over there and you can check it out on our Build in Buffalo network. And again, thank you again. And y'all, peace out and go Bills. I know you're not going to say go Bills, but it's all good.
I'm going to say Jets, Jets.
Of course you are. Of course. Peace, y'all.